Okay, so we've got this band set up in the structure of what it's going to look like when it's printed out, right? And we are now receiving what we call properties, props, name, members formed, and this is what they look like. And now we can use this band tag to go send the information that we need from the band, or from the band list to the band to be able to go grab the info for each band. All right, so we start with an opening brace here on the band tag, and we say we're going to pass something in, and what we're going to pass in is this first entry. How do we access that? Well, I'm going to use something called the spread operator. Now, I don't know if you've used this in the past or not, but the spread operator is 1, 2, 3 dots, 1, 2, 3 periods, and then the name of the variable. In our case, it's going to be band names. So band names, and then the element of that variable, closing brace. All right, so this is going to go into this entry for the band names at element 0 and spread it, meaning it's going to take and grab all 3 elements. And if there were 17 elements, it would grab all 17 elements. It's going to grab all of the elements and pass them to the band function. All right, and you can guess that for these next ones, I can go in and say band names, go look at element 1, and then band names, go look at element 2. So it's going to go into each object in this JSON entry, this JSON variable. Now again, this could be coming from a file instead. We're doing it having typed it out, but it could look like this, just sitting out in a file somewhere with each entry, and we could pull from that as well. All right, so we're going to hand to the band tag the information for element 0, the information for element 1, the information for element 2, and as each tag, as each function is being called, it will send that information in and print out that particular information. All right, let's save it. In fact, I'm going to do the little split screen here and save. And when we do this, now it's going to print out those 3 different band objects as part of this band list. Okay, we feeling okay about that? So we use the spread operator to go get each individual element of each object in this JSON file. And now, if we have 50 bands, we would still need to go type in, band 3, band 4, band 5, band 6, but it's going to take that information for each one and go pop it in here. Well, so that's our last little dilemma to solve, is we don't want to have to go type in every band. Doesn't it make sense that all we're doing here is changing which element we're on? 0, 1, 2, 3, and if we went down to 50, it'd be down to 50. It's the exact same thing. We just want to change this number. And so in React, there is something called mapping. And there's this map function will go in and do exactly what it is we're trying to describe. All right, so that'll be our last little thing here to figure out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, instead of any of these things individually, I'm going to drop in a variable. We're going to replace these in a second. I'm going to drop in a variable, meaning the opening, closing curly brace there, to be treated as a variable for the band names. And I'm going to call the map function. And then, just like I a minute ago had created a single band, do you remember that? I'm going to use this, I've forgotten the name of it, the arrow function. Arrow function. So I don't know if you've worked with the arrow function or not, and we'll talk more about it as we go along, but just to introduce this concept, I'm going to say I want a variable called a single band. That's what's going to be passed into this function. But rather than calling a separate function, I could create another function somewhere in here and pass this information for a single band and have the information returned to me. But instead, we use a shortcut called the arrow function, which is an equal sign and then a greater than sign. Okay, so the arrow function. And then I say what this is going to do. So opening parenthesis. What this is going to do is go in to create a band object, just like we're doing down here. And then I'm going to pass in the information for a single band. All right, and I'll close that tag. That replaces the need for these 3 tags, because what it's doing is for each time it goes in, this map function is starting with element 1. Let me make this big. Or element 0, sorry. It's starting with element 0, going to element 1, element 2, element 3, element 4, all the way through. So this map function is going through all the entries in the band names, and then it's going to store the information for a single entry in a variable called single band, and that single band is what's going to be used as we move through the entire JSON object, not object, but the in this case, a variable. I keep thinking about it in terms of a file because that's where we're going eventually. We'll pull information from a database into a JSON file, and that's what we'll use to go through. So that's why we're doing this little process of trying to print out these bands, is because we're going to do this all the time as we start to list information from databases. So this statement replaces the need for these 3 statements because it's doing essentially the same thing. It's going to go through and map out this entire JSON object. I keep saying object, but each individual thing in the JSON file is an object, and so it's going to go through and map out each one. And using a variable called single band, it's going to do this function where it goes in, reads in the single band, spreads it out, all the pieces of information, and passes it to the band so that the band can print out the information for that specific band. And when we do this with 1 line of code, again, I'll go to our little split screen here. When I save this, it's not going to be very impressive because it's not going to actually look like or do anything because we already were printing out each of the elements. But now it's doing it. If I add in another element, oh no, I hadn't planned for this. I got to think of another criminally underrated band, and these were the top 3 I thought of. Didn't have this in my notes. It was a spur of the moment thing. But if we throw in another band name, so one that I thought of, I don't know that this falls into the same level of underratedness as the 3 that I've listed, but it's a band called Traffic. Band, I think, from the 70s. Members, I don't even know who the members are. We gotta hurry. I'm looking at the clock. Traffic. Wikipedia. Help us out, Wikipedia. Traffic. Band. An English rock band. All right, formed, it was, let's see. Oh man, way too many past members. Steve Winwood, let's hurry. Someone just can grab that information. Steve Winwood, who I just saw in concert this last summer. Excellent. Jim Capaldi, Chris Wood, and Dave. I'm trying so hard to type fast. Dave Manson, and then they were formed 1967. So 1967. All right, so now let's go back to our page. When I save this, that band should just pop in. And sure enough, it does. And so by using this format with using the spread operator, using the map function, having each individual band, we can print out all the bands in the entire list of 50. All right, so this looks good. All we need to do now is get this thing loaded up on GitHub, and so we'll take a look at that in the next video. Spencer out.